Hey, BassGeek here, and I love to throw this particular style of swim bait in the spring. And one of the reasons why I love to throw it is because it's got some good vibration. And hey, everybody needs some good vibrations once in a while. So if there's one thing that I've been doing for a very long time, it has been to throw in ultra clear water big, soft swim baits. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-inch swim baits. I've done it for years. And guys, I'll be the first to tell you, I would never call myself an expert at anything except maybe this, because I have a very in-depth way that I use these baits, even based on watercolor, time of year, cover they're in, weight, the whole 9 yards. Now, we're not going to get in crazy deep on it. We're just going to talk about something that I love to do right now during the spring, to do two different things: catch them and find them. Find them and catch them, whichever comes first. And this particular swim bait, they're not very durable. So you have to use a very particular head, in my opinion, to save you money. Let me show you what that is. So during the spring, I love to throw hollow body swim baits like this, even the ultra clear ones, because they have a little more body roll to them. Now, most of the time you're going to hear me talk about these type of swim baits, and this is one of my very favorite go-to swim baits. This is a Ramsey swim baits, and he makes a ghost shad for me. And what I like about these swim baits is that they're very much like a flat-sided crankbait. So as you get into summer, you'll notice your bait fish, your fish in general, they don't have a lot of crazy action and tail wiggle. They've got a nice tight wiggle, and that's what this does. You can see how slim this bait is, and you can see that the tail, even though it's still incredibly soft, it's not got a huge paddle on the back. And this one's a little more durable. It's got a solid plastic head, and it's got a hollow belly. So it's only got a hollow slot in the belly. But that makes these a little more durable. They have less action. They've got a little bit of a head roll and a nice tight tail wiggle. And that's an incredible summer bait right there. Now, we were talking about earlier about fishing even the 7-inch versions. Right here is one of those. Now, I know a lot of you are going to have questions about this head. We'll get to that. A lot of you that's been around the channel forever know this is my favorite swim bait head. But we'll get to that in a minute. So let's talk about the Shadalicious. And I messed up and didn't bring a couple of my other colors, like my blueback shad, with me. But this is one of my go-tos in clear water. This has been one of my go-tos forever. And you can see it's basically the same thing. It's got this sort of just, I call it a shadow to it. But this bait is actually a hollow. It's hollow from nose to tail. And there's barely any plastic in the nose. So you could actually take, there's a slot on the back, and if you had strong enough lungs, you could actually blow this thing up like a balloon. Now, there's a ton of great baits out there: the Shadalicious, the BassGeek, one of the originals, the OG, the BassGeek. I think it's True Baits or somebody else. I'll put links down in the description. They make some really great ones. But what I like about these, I like them even during the summer if you're in dirtier water and you're a little deeper, because these, as you can tell, have a much bigger paddle tail to them. But these things have a big body roll to them, a big kick to them, so they're going to give off a little more vibration. They're going to give off a little more action. And in the spring, the pre-spawn, that's something that I love to do, because bass are in that really aggressive feeding mood. And then sometimes, like here, you get a lake turnover, and what ends up happening is it dirties and stains up the water. So something like this is incredible. Now, not this color if it's stained up. This color is great when it's clear, but like the blueback or something that's a little more, got a little more color, a little more solid color to it. But one of the biggest problems with these, and it is a problem that I've seen with a ton of different head manufacturers, they're not made for these style of baits. These baits are super soft, and I don't care what brand you get. When you put the screw in the middle of the nose, it's only going to grab about a quarter at best, about a 1/4 inch of plastic. I've not even caught fish on them before and literally cast the center out of the nose because they put too small of a spring on them. And that's going to bring us, of course, to the head that I like to use exclusively with these. And that is from Ledge Head Lures. Now, like I said, if you've been around the channel for a long time, you've heard me sing the praises of these. What I like about these, this isn't really a keeper. Everybody talks about this being a keeper arm, but that's really a misconception. The very first thing you're going to notice on these is the spring, and that's bigger than any spring I know on any bait out there. And what that's designed to do is really bite into the nose of this bait all the way around it when you screw it up on there. So one of the things, he does stamp all of his heads with the weight. This is a 1/2 ounce. It's my go-to size. I can fish this down, slow rolling it to about 30. 35 is pushing, but about 30 feet. Just a nice slow roll. And that's one of the things about fishing these types of swim baits that I got to tell you, it's not a crankbait. One of the tips that I always give, if you're fishing it, you think you're fishing slow, you probably need to slow down. That's a big key about these. Now, the other thing that I love about this head is the secondary action it gives any swim bait. Not a lot of swim baits have that head roll built in, believe it or not. This bait, because of the way the weight is tapered underneath it, gives a swim bait a great roll to it. So this will give a swim bait a great roll, and if you can look from the top, you'll see how thin the head is. The top is so skinny because all of your weight is really built into the head on the belly side. And what that does, when the tail swings, it causes that weight to pendulum back and forth. So let's talk a little bit about the arm. The arm I think it's a better term. Everybody calls it a keeper, but I think it's what I call a run right arm. Now, if you've ever fished these, you'll know when you put them on a jig head, they tend to tear down the back. Now, once they tear down the back, they'll start listing, they won't run right because they're catching water. Well, what this does is this bait can tear from head to tail, and it will continue to run correctly because this keeps it connected to the heaviest part of the weight. Rarely does this tear the bait, ever. And I have used this for years. Like I said, any of my geeks out there that have been around forever, if you see this video, you know, let them know I've used this bait forever, for every year that I've been on YouTube. All right, now I'm going to show you how this rigs up. All right, so the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to bend this arm down. Now you're going to lay the bait out, and you're just going to mark where the hook's going to go through, and you're going to find the dead center, the seam. You're going to poke that hole. So that gives you an idea of where the bait is going to come out. Now you're going to go dead center of the nose. And again, these are hollow, so it's pretty easy. You're just going to come up, and you're going to find that hole. Right there. And you're going to bring it around. Now, one of the key steps is always to pull that head and lift it up and make it good and fat. Bend and flatten the tail and start to screw it up on there. Now you could leave it right there if you want. I go ahead and bring it all the way up, and you can see how much of a bite that spring is getting. You'll push that nose down just a little bit to get it under the top part of the head. So you're going to want to get it good and straight. And then this is where your run right arm comes in. You're going to just pop it in the belly until you hook it on the hook shank. And there you have it. Now we're going to tie the knot on. Going to go through. Just going to tie the pit seam. Going to go through about 5 to 7 times through the top. And then pull it tight. Moisten it just a little as we slide it down. And we will cut the tag in. And we are ready to go fishing. So I like a nice long rod because a lot of times I'm going to use these even during the summer. I'm going to ledge fish. I'm going to make nice long casts. Also, I fish a lot of clear water, so a longer cast is key to catching big, smart bass. So this is one of my favorite rod series ever. You guys know I've had the Versa jerkbait rod forever and a day. And this is the Versa. This is a 7'3", so I can get a nice long cast, medium, heavy, fast action. And I think there's always a number. It's like the VS73MH. Links will be in the description for everything that we're talking about today. By the way, if you don't care, make sure you go check out the links in the Tackle Warehouse. Scan this, bookmark it either on your phone or on your computer. And anytime you go buy from Tackle Warehouse, use that link, that bookmarked link for us. As I always say, we don't sit around in our garage or office or basement. We're out here fishing every day, every chance we get, testing these baits so we can teach you and help you learn how to use them. So anyway, back to the rod and reel combo. This rod allows me to get a long cast. It allows me, especially with the microwave guides, it allows me to be able to get a good strong hook set because this hook is a big beefy hook. Now we'll talk a little more about why that's important when we get into the fishing section. But I've got that coupled with a Lew's BB1 Pro, and I like a good heavy wide spool or a spool that's going to hold a lot of line, and that's what this does for me. I keep my reel speed, my favorite reel speed is a 6.3. I think this one may be a 6.4 to 1 because I'm telling you, fishing a swim bait, it is so important to go slow. There's a startup point for a swim bait, and that's where you want to be just above. And what I mean by that is in the water, there's a speed where a swim bait won't really get a lot of action, and then it'll just kick up once you reach that low speed. That's the speed you want to fish a swim bait most of the time. There's always exceptions to the rule. But of course, as always, now I like to fish deep and be able to fish these down to 30 feet. You've got to have a thin line diameter, and that's something I love about K9. I've got 15-pound test Pro 100% fluorocarbon because I also want to feel every little tick with this thing. And that is also important when it comes to catching the bass. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But that is the line I go to. 15-pound test, K9 Pro 100% fluorocarbon. 10% off discount for that. Let me show you the way I like to fish this in the spring. Okay, so fishing this thing, there's a lot of different ways to fish it, but we're going to talk about spring fishing right now. We're going to talk about when those bass are up running the banks. This is something that I like to use when it's dead slick calm and it's clear water. We know they're up there. So what I like to do is fish it right below the visibility levels. If you've got 3 foot, I'm going to fish it, say, right at that 3-4, all the way down to maybe even 15 until I figure out what depth level those bass are on. Now I'm going to start in the creeks. I'm going to start at the mouths this time of year. If I don't know, let's say I'm just trying to figure out a lake, I'm going to work in. I'm going to throw above. We're not going to use it like a spinner bait, but we are going to work it above brush piles. And that's one of the things where this bait shines that time of year, is around that cover, because that little bit of vibration from this and the size of it's going to call them up out of those brush piles, even in that clear body of water. Make several casts to things like laydowns and keep it above them. Now, like I said, I think it's key to fish very slow. Fish this thing very, very slow. But it's just going to take time, guys. So make sure you've got some sort of lure retriever plug knocker. It's going to take time to learn your equipment and the speed of the retrieve to keep it at the depth level you want it at. I think another huge key is being able to make sure you're around some sort of bait fish. Now, they don't have to be up on the bank. We're going to fish this on the bank right now, but there needs to be bait fish in the area. I think anytime you've got life, you've got all types of life, including bass, and that's where you're going to get bit. It's one of the things I always try to find. When it comes to the bite, and this is something that is going to have to take learning and patience, and it still gets me every once in a while, but you do not ever set the hook when you feel the peck, because what'll happen is you'll pull that bait away, or either they're trying to run into it and kill it. You set only when you feel the weight of the fish. Once the rod bows, you side set, a hard side set. Keep your rod tip low, because this is a lot of weight here and a lot of shake there, and it will wrench that hook free. I know, because when I was learning how to fish these years ago, I lost a giant. Seen it come out of his head and twist when I set it straight up like a jig. Do not do that. Keep them in the water. Do not fight them. I have taken 100 people out and taught them how to do this. And I have specifically told them, do not fight the bass. And I have almost every time watched them fight the bass and lose a big fish. Every time. So just don't do it. I don't care if you go, oh, it's a big one. You're filling his mouth full of water. You have got a high torque, low speed reel, which means you're grinding him to the boat and you are hopping him in, or you are getting down there quick, because if he gets his head out of the water and he swings, your percentage of losing that bass on any swim bait just went through the roof. It's astronomical. I mean, I would say you probably now have a 70% chance of losing them once they start swinging their head around, especially a bigger one. So you're getting him to the boat and putting him in, period. If you want to fight a fish, go throw a Kitech and on a spinning reel and have a good day. But if you want to catch some really big bass this time of year, this is what you need to do. One of the things that I will tell you is, like, if I'm on a good A-rig bite and it slicks off calm, this is what I'm going to in clear water every single time. And I know there's big fish around in the spring. This is what I'm throwing, because in the spring the shad haven't spawned yet, and they're going to be the big ones. And a bass will always love a steak over a little Vienna sausage. You know what I'm saying? All right, geeks, trust me, pick some of these up. They were real hot several years ago, and they are coming back, because not as many people are throwing them in the spring right now that they used to. Everybody's gone to the little finesse swim baits, and if you want to cull out those little ones, this right here will do that for you. All right, so if you want to learn some really in-depth stuff about throwing these swim baits, make sure you go check out this video right here. Otherwise, questions, comments in the comments section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell so you get the notifications when these videos come out. Be part of the 100% Watch Squad, and you geeks rock.